Any stronghold in Annapolis, Moreno, and beyond. This is the Recruiter Roundtable Season 3. Every episode is an open discussion for recruiters, headers, and talent pros, so feel free to participate or just sit back and listen as we bring you topics, discussing tips, tricks, and more from both industry dinosaurs and noobs alike. Please like and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, and please like and subscribe to our Facebook Roundtable. And now let's start with the Recruiter Roundtable Season 3 with Temp Staffing and Contract Staffing with Neil Lebovits and Boss Back Office Staffing Solutions.
I love it. You sound like
Thank you, Neil.
You sound like the voice on the prescription commercials, for different pharmaceuticals, warning of all the possible side effects.
Ketamine.
Not available in all states. Some restrictions apply.
Exactly. Head up.
Boy, we're prohibited.
Yeah.
Must be 18.
Funny.
So,
all right.
Everybody, here's Neil. We have at it, Neil.
Yeah. So in the green room and the chatter before the recording turned on, there's lots of questions and comments about the temp industry. And, we'll see, I want to cover what you're all most interested in our, half hour together or whatever time we spend. A little bit about us. I'm the CEO of Back Office Staffing Solutions. We are an employer of record payroll funding company. We basically do everything. If you want to get into temp, we employ the people for you. We provide benefits. We do the onboarding, employee handbook, taxes, payroll, invoicing for you, the collections, the credit before all that. And then we, take our small cut and we pay you your invoice as it comes in. That's basically our business in a nutshell. And we also deal with people who want to be their own employer of record, and you use us for everything except for the legal employment and benefits and such. Ernie, I saw you had your hand.
I was just going to say, if I can tell what I think you do everything. I just need to find a candidate, give him to you, and you take it from there.
Yes, candidate and client, and we do the rest. That's the easiest way to describe it. Everything else you would have to do, we do.
On a contract basis or whatever they want to do.
Right, including the filings, all the reporting one has to do, the licensing, all that stuff.
And I don't worry about the money that I have to put forward and all the other stuff that staffing people deal with. You take care of all that.
If we take care of that for the majority of the people. If you don't want it, for us, for example, you save 18 to 24% annualized interest on funding it yourself. But yeah, we'll fund it. But people look at us as just turnkey. I mean, if you have enough money in the bank, fund it. If you can find a company like mine that'll discount it, there's a bunch of us that do that because it's expensive. You're really going to pay credit card interest, 18, 24, you're talking credit card numbers. So if you have enough money to fund, basically you need to fund enough money from when you lay out the payroll each week, which is what we do and most of us in the industry do. We pay out weekly and you don't get your invoice for 35, 40 days. So you have to lay out that money. But so you need basically 5 weeks of payroll and payroll taxes in your bank account. And fee, whatever, but that's the majority of it to cover it. So yeah, but yeah, we do everything.
And I will say, everything I've heard about you guys, everybody trusts you. It's like it's just you got a great reputation of doing what you do. So.
Thank you, appreciate that. We can make this a commercial for a half hour. No, we won't. I don't want to lose anybody watching. So all right, You were all talking before, which I thought was really interesting, about the size of the opportunity. The search industry is just a small piece of the pie, right? So the search industry is 10% or so of the entire industry. Staffing is $180, million versus, $180 billion. You got $20+ billion on the search side. So think about that. It's almost 9 times, 20 to 180, almost 9 times greater for the staffing side of the business. Does that shock you at all?
No.
Yes.
So there's a huge difference, and you need to get into it. There's a lot of reasons why you should get into it, and I'll touch on some of those. But it's just the large size of the pie. Now, granted, there's lots of competitors, but there's lots of ways you can go in there and skin your niche off. Okay. There's a lot of trends that have been happening. I could share this with Thomas, who could pass it out, but Bullhorn just came out with their industry stats and what happened last year, polling of all the recruiting firms. I'll send that out to you because it's super interesting on the search side. On the temporary side, we're larger than we were pre-pandemic on the temporary staffing side. It's also the second to go in a recession, right? On a recession, perm it goes on a nosedive. You know, it could decrease 25 to 40% overnight. On the temp side of the business, it takes longer to slow down. It also comes out of it earlier. So it really hedges your bets in a lot of ways, you know, and in terms of, you know, the dynamics of an economy, you know, what side do you want to be on? The answer is both of them, and it's not all or nothing. If you look at what your business is worth, your valuation is key. What's it worth on the search side of the business? I mean, honestly, one of a multiple. If you're going to stay on for a couple of years, or if you have something more, you know, you have a whole team that you're selling, you know, you can get away with a multiple of a couple. The multiple on the contract side of the business, your multiple of profit, that'll be your selling price, is upwards of, you know, 4 to 8. So it's significant. What can I answer in that area?
I think Steve had a question there.
Before he does, sorry, Steve, what does 4 to 8 mean?
4 to 8
multiple.
4 to 8%. We're talking about a percent of the bottom line profit that's converted to selling price. Your multiple is called.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So you can get, like, on a professional staffing, you know, you can get 6+%, call it 6 conservatively. Right. So if you're making $1 million in temp profit, which isn't that crazy to do. All right. I mean, you'd have to focus on it for that. Here we're talking about gravy money as opposed to, you know, doing $1 million, which plenty do. You're looking at a $6 million selling price. Right. And if you have a search business with it, they'll add that on and you'll get that multiple of 1 or 1.5 or whatever that number is.
Does that mean you have 6 million people, $6 million in salaries across all your people that year?
No, that'll be what someone would buy your company for, what you would put it on the market.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yep. You get a lot of repeat business if you do the contract side of the business. There's a lot more volume. Relationships stay a lot fresher. It's much easier. You don't have to, you know, constantly hit your, you know, your CRM and go back and stay fresh to them. You're always there. It's an unbelievable way of utilizing your inventory that you're not touching. You know, what other industry would utilize less than 10% of its inventory and toss the rest of it away without figuring out a way to make something off of the rest of that inventory?
You find open roles in this, like, I mean,
Same way you do now.
What'd you just ask?
Steve, you better jump in.
Well, you know, I wasn't going to gild the lily for you there, Neil, but you're being a little bit shy. If you would, I mean, people like myself who've known you for probably 20 years or so know a little bit about your background. Could you just give us the 60-second background? Because I think maybe some of the people don't understand from whence you come.
All right. So I started in the industry in, oh God, I'm dating myself, 1988 with Robert Half as one of their rookies of the year. I ended up becoming an area manager for them. I was with them for 3 years. I got recruited by a company called Accountants on Call, which changed names to Agilon, a division of Adecco. Parker Lynch, Modus, they've got a Lee Hecht Harrison they go by now. And I became the president and COO of that after working there for a total of 20 years. I became the global president for the professional staffing on finance and creative services, and creative office. So then I became an industry trainer for about 10 years. Where I made the rounds and I trained on everything from LinkedIn utilization to you name it. Was also a consultant for clients that wanted to grow the temp side of their business. one of the only trainers that focuses in on the temp side of the business. And then 5 years ago, I opened up back office staffing solutions to service this sector. So thank you, Steve. That's my 60-second commercial.
Kelly, you had something you were going to say?
Yeah, someone asked a question before.
Kelly, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. Well, I know Dom answered it, and I already know that. I mean, I've worked every single piece of this business in the years, but I guess my question is, if you're a small business owner, when I did temp back in the day, we had a lot of people that we worked with. I mean, it worked for a big company. And so, if you did people who worked in a warehouse or something like that, you had to have a lot of people. What kinds of roles do you mostly work with in your business? Is it those kinds of people, or is it higher level people?
Good question. We'll handle everything. We have 22,000 workers' comp codes, but as a rule, if you can, you want to stay, unless it's your niche, you want to stay away from the light industrial if you're getting into it, because it's a lot of turnover and a lot of recruiting for, it's a volume game there much more. But
right.
People that are really good at it make a lot of money doing it. You'll just need a couple of people, to your point. What we handle is about 60-70% professional staff. So being driven by IT, finance, admin, the large amount of it, some engineering. And then the rest of it being healthcare. We do a lot of CNAs, RNs.
Got it.
Yep.
Are you still teaching, Neil? I spent a little bit of time with Benchmark when Robert Happ owned them. So it was coincidentally enough the light industrial, and the way we would, Kelly, to your point, how do you get the clients? We would just call them up and ask them, hey, until you find your dream candidate for the full-time role, there's time wasted here, money going down the drain. Let's put someone in there for you. Is that how you're doing it?
You've been exposed to it, right? That's why you know to do that. But listen, that's the answer. Right? If I could share one big thing to take from this call is take every job order that you get and separate it into a temp contracting order if you can, and you'll work on both of them. You're not changing what you've done. Okay. You're just saying, listen, we got this set. Okay. We're done with our whole spiel, taking the order, explaining how we work, yada, yada. I also want to approach it on the temp side of the business. Okay. If I find, no, we don't want that. Yeah, you do. Here's why. If we find someone who's unemployed that's really good at it, it's the best interview that they can do. It solves the cost of a mishire. When you get good at selling this, you really explain how expensive a mishire is. Crazy, right? Ernie, you could chime in.
Neil, in doing this, somebody that's brand new that doesn't understand any of this, and as you do MPCs, as you do other things that we do within our regular business of search, we always ask for, is anyone have any examples of how to write an email? Do you have templates or examples of how to write an email so we can get that conversation going with a potential client?
I don't, but it wouldn't be a bad idea just because I don't really train and do that. But that's a pretty good thing to add to my deck, because this is something I do with the PowerPoint, really thorough. And it's about a 75-minute training that I do on how you sell temp. But that would be it's basically summarizing what I'm talking about right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ernie, I have something I can send you from my old company.
Yeah, please.
The one thing that I got when talking to Neil was the tryout. Like, here, try this guy out. Because I don't have a lot of clients that do any temporary at all that I know of. I mean, they may. But one of the things Neil told me was, hey, I know this out of work guy. You're not sure on. Let's bring him on a temp basis, and if you like him, then move him to full time. And if you don't like him, you can fire him, but it doesn't cost you all the HR bullshit that you have to do otherwise.
Oh my
That's
God.
the only way I knew about it. But how would someone, like, if I was tomorrow to say, okay, I want to open up a temp and contract staffing, and in pretty much in my industry, let's just say none of my clients do that, right? I asked one client, they said they would consider it, but they hadn't done it in like 4 years. How would I go about like going after, let's say, consulting engineering firms or construction companies? Because I'm an MPC guy, right, or a assumptive opening guy. Like, how would you correlate that to someone like me, whose all of his business
I
development
would
needs are
start
revolved
with,
around
yeah,
that?
yeah. I would start with just calling on the orders you have now and explaining, or look for someone. If you want to MPC, MPT is what we used to train that on. You know, most placeable temp, most placeable contractor. If we would have put T,
Okay.
most placeable temp, and market them in someone who's unemployed. And the pitch to them is, it's, you know, the cost of a mishire. Interviewing doesn't work. There are people that interview great that turn out to be great. You know that there are people that interview great that's all they're good at, and they turn out to be mishires. There are people that interview poorly that turn out to be poor. All right, there you go. And there's people who interview poorly who turn out to be stars. And this takes that away from the equation. And you'll have coffee with this person. You'll get to really know while we're still doing what we talked about up until this point. Okay, we're still going to work on the search position. We're not going to lose anything. But if I can find someone, you're not promising them that, because I might not be able to. I'm only going to put them in if there's someone I think you'll hire. But you're going to do both with them, and that's the pitch that you really want to give them.
Have you ever thought about doing contract temp while we do this search kind of thing?
Right. And they probably haven't, the same way that you all haven't pitched it. So when they say, nah, I don't want to do that, you say, yeah, we do. Like, why wouldn't we? Like, if, and let's say you only come through 10% of the time, it's fine. But if I do, we're crazy not to jump on that. All right. And you know, you'll be competing with yourself now. When you've lost positions before and they say we filled it internally, I got news for you. A bunch of those, and I know for a fact, were temp to hire positions. They're not internal. These are temps that they converted. People converting a good candidate that's a fit that you put in on a temp to hire that makes it through the temp position, they get hired like 75% of the time for that open position. Compare that to what's your send out to placer ratio? 18%, 20%. This group probably 20, 25. I don't know.
Might as
Ernie?
well higher than that. But yeah, in general, the industry average is 20%, 8-1, 10-1. You know, new guys 10-1. Had some experience under your 8-1. I try to stay in the 2, 3-1, 4-1 at the most.
So,
Yep.
So Neil, say I place somebody in with you know, as a temp contract, and they work for a month. Then they say we want to hire them. Any suggestions on how I should charge them a fee?
Oh my God, yes. Well, I explained this totally in my full version of this, where if you want this, you can go to my website, backofficestaffing.com. Backofficenow.com is an easier one to remember to get to. You'll see a pop-up where you'll sign up for the master. Or I could give it to you, Thom, to send out to the group. I don't know how and where.
Please do.
But I could send you out this full webinar. We get into that. But let me tell you the short version of it, but it's really intricate. If you want a book that explains it really well, it's my Staffing by the Book. It's just backofficenow.com/staffing, STAFFING. And that book will explain what I'm going to summarize. But basically what you want to do is when you price your stuff, where do you start? You'll start with what your search gross margin is. And your search gross margin is 100% margin. So it's your revenue, your billing, your fee. And that's what you want to at least break even on. So just in simple terms, if your fee is going to be $25,000, they want to convert them after a month and you've made $3,000, you know, you could discount a $3,000 if you want to. I mean, that you could do that up front. You could go even less. You could say, listen, I know I'm normally going to make $25,000, but that's a 1 in 10 shot or a 1 in, 5 shot. Let me go ahead and do something that's a 1 in, a 7.5 out of a 10 shot. okay, and go ahead and do that angle and get them in and say, for that, I'm willing to make each time $18,000. So if they're there for 3 months, you might say, are they 6 months? You could take it for free. You do the math. You're like, well, after 6 months, I've made $18,000. I'm cool with that if that's my way to hook them. Or if they say that's all they're going to do. You can make more money too during temp. You know, it's not meant to bastardize, but you're also going to make all this temp revenue on all your different clients as they're going through this process at different phases. So,
you know, I'm going to dumb it down on some of it. So like a $20 an hour person, if you mark it up 1.5, you're billing the company $30 an hour minus your fees, whether it's factoring, payroll, workers' comp, all that.
For round numbers for us, which is factoring, whatever. On your own, it would be.
So let's call it 30%. You make $7 an hour on each candidate. That adds up, and then you charge extra on sick time, double time, all that.
Yeah, it adds up to 20 grand a year.
Yeah,
for that low example you gave, and that's really low. That's $40,000 person.
Oh, I know, because my first year we had like what 15, 20 temps in, and I'm like, wait, we made that much money on staffing?
Yeah, oh my God,
these were $16 an hour people
on that easy.
That's why I'm getting back into it.
Also mentioned that on the message, in the in-call messaging we have, I put the website, your website on there, so people.
Excellent. And message me if you just want to link to the stuff. I'll send it to you. It's neil@backofficenow.com, or if you're my Facebook friend or whatever, just message me there.
Okay.
So what else in our last, I know we want to keep this to half hour or so.
Half hour, and then we'll go on further if there's questions.
Yeah. Of
course.
This goes on for as long as you like. I usually give the first 30 minutes so you can kind of do your spiel, but this was much more, I think, of a more back and forth, which I like because we're all asking questions we all have problems with. Go ahead, Steve.
Hey, Neil, maybe you can expound on the benefit to a company of going temporary, because from an outsider's perspective, I think a lot of recruiters still kind of think, wait a minute, they're paying us more per hour for this candidate than they would if they would have just put them on full time, with the exception of try before you buy. But I mean, I had some pharmacists when I was doing pharmacy, and many years ago when I was still had brain damage and was doing the IT stuff, I had contractors that I made 3 or 4 times more money as a contract recruiter on that person than I did if I would have just placed them full time. And they didn't have them full time. They kept paying me.
Yeah. Well, again, they don't necessarily pay more either, you know, and certainly not compared to them doing it on their own with all their benefits and what have you. And if you say, look, the more I do this, the more money I'm going to make, you know, like I said, you could lower your conversion fee on it so they could actually save money. It's just like asking someone, look, if you want to give me an exclusive, I'm willing to come up with a flat rate of X or something like that, you know, because you know, hey, I'm going to get it myself. I'll take that every day. It's the same thing.
Isn't the benefit of the contract and temp, to Steve's point, is yes, it might be the same that they would pay, but you're not including benefits. You're not including the HR stuff. You're not including that they can fire like that. They're not laying off an employee. If they happen to hire 100 of them from you and the contract ends in 30 days, there's not a news article about how they laid off 100 employees. Is that kind of more of the benefit?
Exactly. And you said it, and it's benefits, the cost of that severance. It's any legal amount. It's everything that happens with this mishire. And again, the mishires can be, if you heard of the book Top Grading, really famous book that's talked about all this, 5 to 27 times a person's salary, right, is what a cost of a mishire can be. So you want to talk about that, you get good at that. So you got normally, and if they don't go through you and they want to go search, they got hiring costs, recruitment, search fees, advertising fees, testing fees if they want to do it, background checks, all this HR time, wasted compensation. This is all the problems with a mishire. So I think, again, a lot of it is this helps dramatically avoid a mishire. why are we not doing this? Right? If they do outplacement, and someone asked a question before whether I was president of Agilon or Lee Hecht. At the time, it was Agilon. Agilon Finance is what the division was. All right.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I looked at the website and say I want to be involved in the program, be one of your have you as my backup. There's an application there. Do I do the application first? Do I find a candidate? What direction can you give me with that?
I mean, you can do either. If you think it's going to be imminent and you're going to really be committed to this and you're going to make it and you're going to be focusing in on it, register as soon as you can so that that's all done. You know, that takes a couple of days. It could take a week. If not, if you got a candidate or client and you wanted to register, we'd get that done immediately, but you're going to be really rushing. So I'd say don't do it. We don't charge for it. It's about 15 minutes to give everything, including your W-9.
I did it all.
Deposit.
I think I'm all done. Yeah, it was easy. It was painless.
So,
yeah, I mean, it could be 5 minutes, and then you have it.
If you look at it in terms of your recruiter, maybe just starting out, maybe doing whatever you're doing, you can look at it as a stream of income that's separate from your search practice that you say, I got to start. You want to do splits. You can do this contracting stuff right now and join into your program, and there's no charge for it. It's free. Everything else we seem to have to pay for something.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, a lot more of your clients probably use temps and contractors than you think. And if they just knew that you did it, and you got to do that by having this conversation with every client, just effective tomorrow or Monday, start letting them know this is what we do. We do this too. Think of us for this, or who's the hiring manager on the temp side.
Now you have a training program. You have a 1 hour presentation you do with somebody. Is that what I heard you say earlier?
Yeah, it's this in a lot more detail with the PowerPoint, and you can download that. And I cover these things in more detail. It was a presentation as opposed to a back and forth like this.
So as I look at your website, where would I find that presentation? How would I do it?
Pop-up show up?
I have profile. I have the regular boss, profile, industry, agreement, banking, and W-9. That's, I guess that I went.
Oh, that's on the, and you're on the enroll,
okay.
Right?
So now I got the boss, yeah, the enroll, syndicate, boss, different
Should
solution.
come up. If it doesn't, it's /selling temp.
Okay.
SELLINGTEMP. So backofficenow.com or backofficestaffsolutions.com /selling temp.
And also on your website, you have got any questions? I'm happy to help. So I can always go there and ask about that.
Oh, of course. And I'll consult with you guys directly, should you get into it and want help on it. I'm very involved, and I'll help you with the pricing. I'll help you answer all these questions so you're not out on your own. Change your websites. Add on your website that you do contracting or staffing and temp. Add it. So when people look, they'll at least know it. That'll take you 2 minutes to do. And believe me, it's not a ton more to it than that, because we do all the heavy lifting, and you'll focus on the unemployed great people. Eventually you'll just find temping, but there are a lot. You can actually use job boards. You could use Indeed for that and get really great temps.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
You can also find candidates that are impacted through what used to be called outplacement firms like Lee Hecht Harrison, Bright Management, Challenger Grand Christmas. I've placed 10, 12 people at least from there that align with roles at candidates on temp and full-time or answer.
Wow, that's great. Yep. And they're happy to work with you on it.
You even go into that a little further. I mean, there was some discussion of some of us say, maybe I'll offer outplacement services. Well, this complements that as well. You can do a one-on-one outplacement. You do the contracting with it. They find a job, you do a placement. I mean, it's all about creating your thinking and thinking outside the box instead of thinking, do I become an engagement recruiter? Do I become a retained recruiter, or do I become a contingency recruiter? And which industry and all this stuff. This gets you thinking outside the box, which is a great thing. Plus, it doesn't cost you a damn thing. You just enroll in this thing. And Neil takes care of all of it, and he'll hold your hand, which is really good.
Yeah, totally will. What else?
Is there?
You can send me the money for that presentation, Neil.
Is there any positions you don't work on, or you won't work on, or you won't?
We won't do anything with explosives, mining, can't mine oil and gas, heavy rigging, heavy equipment. We don't do that. And we don't do
So more of the dangerous labor.
dangerous labor. Yeah. Prison nurses, we won't do.
Overhead cranes. I mean, we
Overhead
tried
cranes.
when I was doing the maintenance techs. Neil and I got together, and the burden on that is just way high.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
And we just pass it on. We don't make money on the workers' comp differences for it. We just charge a pass through.
Is there a level, like, I mean, do you do entry level? Do you do?
Oh yeah.
Certain...
No, there's none. We do everything. Someone just asked us recently. It's an existing partner of ours, and they already have half a dozen people out. And they asked us whether they have a client they only want someone part-time for a couple of weeks. Which is a lot of work to onboard them and do it. The answer is sure. Yeah, of course. We do anything. If you want to do it and you think it's profitable, we'll do it with you. Well, sometimes you need to, because it's going to open up more doors for them, or they want you to hook them up. You're not doing it to make what's going to end up being 30 billable hours over 3 weeks. What are you going to make in there? It's just 3/4 of a week's worth of profit for you, and it's over. But you'll do that sometimes for your good clients.
And like you said, because you're developing a relationship, right? The every avenue where I know it's cliche, it's on my email, help everyone around you get what they want, you'll get everything you want, right? So if you're helping this client, with some contract staffing, he's going to remember you for the permanent staffing, for the retained search, right? He's going to recommend you to his other companies that he's friends with, or his business meetings to go to. Oh yeah, call Thom. He does contract staffing. He helped us.
One shop solution.
One-stop shop.
Yeah. Why lose to your competitors? Why? Get them in there. And like someone said before, they'll often extend them or keep them on for years. Right? Which is gold. Gold.
I once worked with a company where we had 500 temporary employees.
Wow, yeah, gold. That's make crazy money. Yeah.
I made somebody rich. I was a VP of HR.
If you make $5 an hour on 500 employees for 1 year at 40 hours a week, that's I don't even know, it's 500 times 5 times 40 times
That's over
52.
10 million? What'd you get? I don't know.
5.2 million at $5 an hour. If you had 500 employees, your gross profit after you paid everything to Neil and the clients, you make $5 an hour on each one.
$5 a year. Just multiply by 2,000 is the easy secret that I put in that training also. So take what it is, $5 times 2,000. There's roughly 2,080 hours in a year.
Yeah,
so
5 million.
2,000, just double it. That'll give you 100,000 at 500.
Yeah. And that's and you're not doing anything because it butts in seats. The place where I keep my horses, the owner of the place where I keep my horses, her husband had a big staffing firm in Maryland, and that's how he made all his money. And it was, I don't know what exactly he did because he passed away, but she's got a horse farm that's on 70 acres in downtown Annapolis with an indoor riding ring, and she's got a house in Wellington. And her husband left her the proceeds of selling a contract staffing firm.
Yep. That'll do it.
Now, Neil, in terms of this, you bring on a candidate. Are they paid on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, a monthly basis? How often is that candidate paid?
So almost all of them come in weekly. We have the ability to pay them every other week or monthly. That's really, and only in some cases for 1099 contractors. We pay every W-2 weekly. And you can invoice the client differently. You can work with them. You could pay weekly, invoice monthly.
So if I do this with you, then you pay the candidate and you send me a check. Is that pretty much?
We send a check after your client pays us, unless you have instant pay, which some people have, and we'll pay you the same week that the temp is paid.
Do you invoice with our invoice header and all that? Does it look like we're invoicing them?
Yeah, it'll have your logo on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're on your benefits, correct? All the employees are on
my
your
benefits. Yeah, boss's benefits, exactly.
So
they're our employees.
Basically, I could just say you work for me, and this is what's happening. And this is my contact. and
Yeah.
split.
Do they have any contact with you or anybody at your company?
You just broke up before that. I'm sorry.
Do they have contact with anybody at Boss or you or anybody at your company? Like if I
Of
have
course,
100
of course.
employees,
Oh yeah. We're not going to
Okay.
be invisible. They get a lot of TLC, and if they have any questions, they call us regarding their paycheck, their time cards, their payment, their taxes. They'll come to us. And
Okay.
you want them. We're outsourcing that.
And in,
Okay,
and
okay.
in terms of the accounting people that are on the company staff, they contact you.
Correct. AP department.
Okay, so we're not billing them. We're not sending them an invoice.
No,
from
we do
us,
the
and then-
invoicing for you.
Okay.
The time cards are generated. We generate the check. It generates the invoice. We send that out. We collect the money when it comes in 30 days, whatever the case is, and we pay it out to you.
So what happens in the situation where they say, okay, I don't need this guy anymore? Who
They end
tells?
Okay.
Who gives
Bye.
the bad news? Who gives the bad news? Me? Them?
Oh, it's your relationship. You'll do it, not us. And your client's not going to call us.
Right.
They know that we're the back office, but we're really only working with the accounts payable departments. We're not dealing with how they're doing. That's all you. And your relationship with them, they'll call you for something like that. If you want us to, because there's a problem, there's an HR problem, you don't want to deal with it, we'll do it for you. But people don't want to outsource that.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet deal.
All righty.
And what about, I got one more question. What about the insurance? One reason I haven't done contractors is because I've got just basic insurance that's cheap. And a lot of the companies out here in Seattle are like, oh, you need this tech insurance of $5 million, yada, yada, yada. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh, God, I'm paying through the nose for this.
Oh, it's so expensive. We cover all the insurances, and we have a really good insurance package. Our COI could send it out if anyone's interested, or if your clients are, they often ask for a copy or to be a certificate holder or named insured. So we cover everything.
Is that included?
General, professional, EPLI, cyber, which is, the one that's really expensive. That and EPLI, very expensive.
Is this included in
That's included. Yeah, we cover all that. We have all the insurance, all the licenses. We're the employer. We deal with it all. It's all included in the price.
So basically, Neil, it sounds like you do everything that's on the back end that a staffing firm would do. And they're just basically worried about getting the business development, getting the candidates lined up or contractors lined up. You take care of the contract signing, the insurance, the payroll, the insurance, the benefits, the system, all the HR management of the contractors, etc. If the candidate flakes out, they'll be notified by the client, and then they have to replace them or whatever, depending upon their contract terms. So it sounds
Exactly.
having staffing, sounds like you've done a fantastic job of wrapping this all up and making it as a easy side business or alternate route that folks can throw in there and have their clients and make additional money.
Absolutely. And the only thing I'll add to go to the last comment is on the contract side, we will work with you and you'll deal with your client on the contract and the negotiations. It's your client, same as I was saying about the candidate. You don't want us getting involved in that level. If there's issues, they have questions on contracts, sometimes we'll do a three-way call. Our contracts are three-way, right? So we enter into all of us together and what everyone's roles are. Unless it's a big client and they give you their temp agreement, then we use an addendum that just states that, look, we're the employer of record in this case. Here's what we'll do. So, yeah. And we try to stay away from your clients.
What's the usual markup on those?
So,
That's
there's a book on, it's Boss/GMM, gross margin method. GMM, if you want that to add to your library, I'd watch that one last. That's how you maximize your margin. It'll tell you there's no flat markup number. Use it as a barometer. Depending upon what your niche is, it'll vary. Professional staffing, the lowest you should ever do is 50%, go up to 80, 90%. Sometimes you can get away with 100%. But, I'd say shoot for 70, 75% of professional staffing. IT, you could come in lower than that, even though it's professional, because the bill rates are a lot higher. Pay rates are a lot higher. The length of assignments a lot longer. They average about a year, so you make a lot more margin. So there you'll be willing to maybe go below 50 on some cases. You'll take a 38%, 40% because you're going to still make $40,000 in the course of a year.
And so when you say professional, you mean directors, managers, vice
It's
president?
any administrative office position. So anything in the office, lawyers, engineers, IT programmers, anyone in front of a computer, those are all professional staffing, and it's coded as 8810 workers' comp code nationwide.
Did you get rid of the calculator on your website?
No, hell no.
Let me just have a shield up. Let me see. Hold on. I was going to show everybody that. No, and maybe I went the wrong. Is it backofficestaffingsolutions.com calculator?
Oh, no. You got to log into it. Here, I'll show.
Okay, I was going to, yeah.
I'll
I was
show.
going to like show people like what the, at least how I looked at it when the markup, when I was doing this, it seemed really cool. Because I had one client that wanted to go 1099, and I think you do that too, right?
Absolutely.
Now mine didn't look like this. Mine was very simple one that you guys had. You had a very simple calculator on this. That doesn't matter. Anyway, go ahead.
Oh no, this is basically what the calculator looks like, and you plug in your workers' comp code, your state, and it'll give you your rate down at the bottom. You could put in any pay rate. It'll show you what your break even is. It'll show you at the top right how much money you make per hour, per week, per month, per year. So it'll help you with that.
So when it's request code there, say I'm in Illinois, but what does that mean? I mean,
that means, let's say you don't see your workers' comp code. You're dealing with equipment handlers and fire prevention facility.
Right.
I don't know. Whatever it is, it's a code that we don't have bound. We'll get the code and we'll get the rate for you. We don't know. We don't have rates. They don't give us the rates for all 20,000 position.
So, but that one says search code. So what would it do? Would I just go in there and say, yeah, this guy's a production manager or he's a plant manager?
Yeah. So here, Florida, 8810. All right. So there's Florida 8810. You could see our wage fee in this example, 19%.
So you're paying the candidate $40 an hour. You're charging the client $70 an hour, and we make $22 an hour.
Yeah, you make. It's being blocked here by this thingy, but hold on. $22.40 an hour.
Okay. So
Right.
even if you did 1.5, which I've always heard was a thing, it's paid him $60 an hour. What is that markup?
So
Like
look, you
50%?
can put the markup in there as 50, and it'll automatically change the bill rate for you. So it doesn't just calculate it, but it's a tool that you can use for it. So here's the difference, and this is what you'll make per year: $26,000 per year, $12.40 an hour.
And
That's $12 million for our 500 employees that Ernie was talking about at that
Right,
$12 profit.
exactly.
So in doing this, and like I'm bad with numbers, you will help me go through this thing.
Yeah.
And
you'll
say,
say,
okay,
pricing. Just I'll help you with the pricing, how you do it, come up with it.
Mm-hmm. And then how to talk to an employer and say and give me suggestions perhaps on where I should go, like 50% or what kind of markup I should do.
Yeah. It's in the beginning you could ballpark use 50. I hate doing that. You'll see in the training, because on the training what I get into is basically there's two sides of the equation. They're two different ones. There's the supply and the demand side. There's the company side, the bill rate side, and then there's the pay rate candidate side. And you want to minimize the pay based upon a whole slew of factors. And you want to maximize the bill rate based upon a whole slew of factors. Then you divide. Then you come up with what your markup is, and it's a barometer of how you're doing. But when you're in the beginning, 50 is a nice number that encompasses a lot of things. You start there, figure out roughly what you have. If it's attempt to hire, figure out how much at that markup you'll make over 3 months, 6 months. Mm-hmm. And again, you could present lots of opportunities. There's lots of ways to skin the cat. You could have a very low markup situation with a client, but a very high conversion fee. meaning no discount on it. So if you can't afford to do this, I'll come down with you. I'll get it in there low. You can make a couple of thousand extra a year on it, and there'll be no discount on the conversion fee. It'll be 25% if you hire them.
It's
Right?
funny. It's funny we're talking about this right now, because on my email came up, on one of the readings here, they just announced that a company in Ohio had just lost 300 workers, Haitian workers, because of the declassification of their status. And so, it's like, unfortunately, there's opportunity, there's a need. And
there's a major need, because the unemployment rate in the low, what we're talking about, a lot of these industries is zero, right? A lot of these industries, they're just struggling along, paying tons of overtime because they can't find employees.
And another thought too is sometimes you have a family member or friend that's looking for a job, and you say, well, I can't help you because you do X work. Using this, you can make a few phone calls to some of your clients or someone else, and you can recommend them. And if there's a fit, it could be a win-win for both of you. So
37% of all temporary workers in the U.S. are employed in heavy manufacturing of some kind.
Yep, and the number of percentage of people in the population that work temp increases every single year, and they're expecting half the U.S. population in the next 10, 15 years. It's crazy. It's going to be working temp and contract.
You won't do machinists and welders, right?
We do.
Oh, you do? Okay, so that's not high risk.
Not considered heavy.
Okay.
So another thing to think about is when people, experienced individuals in the professional industry, meaning anything in the corporate, marketing, sales, finance, etc. A lot of them end up in the staffing space because companies on the corporate side will typically not want to quote unquote hire full-time people, or makes it harder. The other thing to know about staffing is that when companies are laying off, like crappy economies like this, they still get their work done. They just don't use their FTE budgets. They use their project budgets.
Yep.
So
Yep.
The last 2 years, for example, I've been doing contract work to pay my bills. And staffing is basically how I've worked. Mostly multiple staffing positions at the same time. And as the trend continues where people no longer work for the same company, they work for themselves, and you apply their, whatever it is, discipline to the market, this is how they're going to do it. So if you have this in place, again, I'm a huge fan. Great job, Neil.
Thank you. Hey, and Domenic or Brent, can you send me your AI summary notes? I see you're taking them. When you're done, I want to see how they did with this.
You bet.
Yeah, Neil, I'll send it to you.
Normally blows me away, right? How accurate they are in your meetings.
It's spot on.
Yeah, it's
Do you want the
crazy.
transcript or the summary, or what would you like?
Both. No, I don't need the transcript.
How about the solar industry? Do you have any? Have you seen that taking a lot of temp and con? I think because that's an up and coming industry, it would be more temp and contract there.
Solar, we're like, if there's heavy roof work on it, depends what they're doing in solar. We wouldn't be able to cover it, nor my competitors really. I haven't seen a lot of solar, haven't heard a lot of buzz about it, but I don't disagree that it's got real potential from where we're going, but not yet.
Okay. I didn't know, because I was trying to. While we were sitting here, I was running some stuff with AI deep research for the industries I work, and man, it's like all kinds of stuff. It's like all over the place of what, especially on the lower, like the CAD, BIM modeling, that type of stuff is very big in the engineering world.
Yeah, I'm
on
sure.
contract.
I'm sure. I'm ignorant to that though. I can't answer that.
Toya, did you want to ask a question? I see you had a question there. Are you on mute?
And if you, there we go. She's off.
There you are. I know she's not shy.
No, I was just asking about the industries that, if I know he'd mentioned earlier, I kind of missed a little bit of it, that there were some industries that this wasn't quite ideal for, where there were like higher turnover. So I just was wanting, he mentioned just now, like he said, those solar industries and but you did give some insight when you said oh man, my brain is freezing right now. The CNC,
high risk, oil, gas, stuff like that.
Yeah, like that stuff.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying to avoid sectors like light industrial. It's just if you have your druthers, it's a lot harder work, and you're competing with it's a lot more commodity based. Here are some stats that are in that webinar. So in terms of what happened in 2024 and expected growth, IT and tech staffing was 43.2 billion, and it's expected to grow 5% this year. So that's really solid growth. And this is on the contracting side. Engineering staffing is 10.4 billion, expected to grow 8%. Marketing staffing, 2.1 billion, expected growth of 5%. Finance and accounting, marketing staffing, yep. Finance and accounting, 2024 was 9.1 billion, expected to grow 4%. And education, which is really big, that's a big growing sector. It was 2.2 billion with growth of 7%. So, give
me an example of what on the education side, what company would hire a temp or contract
School districts. They'll want temps as opposed to, it depends on what their budget is, what they have. Lots of reasons, everything from school nurse to school therapist to school teacher.
School superintendents as well. I mean, what school superintendents do is say they have 3 years of a contract. They have a contract. They get fired after 2 years. They're still paid the 3 years. Then they go to another school district, get hired there, so they're getting double pay for a year. I mean, it's like a setup system, and then you wonder why.
Think like a doctor's office. They've got 10 rooms, and they charge you for an hour worth of work, and you see them for 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I have some friends who are retired, and their superintendents are worried, but they fit in for the principal, assistant principal of junior high, middle high school, whatever. So it's really becomes whether you get known in that area.
Yep. The only problem with education is you pay the price in the summer. Everything.
Oh yeah.
Until they reconvene.
Is I can see the nurses, therapists, that makes sense. Like, school nurses that could be a big deal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, retired nurses like, hey, how would you like to go be a school nurse for 9 months out of the year? And it pays, it doesn't pay great, but you're a school nurse. What do you fix them? This, that, and the other thing. You got no risk. You're not dealing with anything crazy.
Yep. We got a whole bunch of those out. Yeah, we have two major clients that deal with the schools, and they're kicking it.
Neil, I think what you're pointing out with regard to the light industrial is just the turnover aspect of light industrial. It would be just too much brain
turnover, low pay rates, and low markup.
Yeah.
Triple whammy. And not the most educated of the pack, which creates lots of stupid problems and not as responsible as other sectors. And, that turns into the more turnover, more stupid problems, HR issues you're dealing with.
Well, you said that in a very eloquent manner. Working in the light industrial years ago, I don't think I could have pulled off being so eloquent about them.
What would you say? They're fucking idiots, right?
Yeah, in that space, what would you consider a low pay rate? What do you when you say a low pay rate, high turnover?
In the teens.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing is knowing that there's a whole new wave of employees coming into the world that have a different view of work. My daughter works in HR, and she said she had a forklift driver that was falling asleep on his forklift, and he had it parked. And then he asked the question. She says, "Well, you can't be doing that." She says, and then his response was, "Well, you know what? I only get lunch and 2 breaks. What do you expect me to do? Work 8 hours?"
Yeah, soon they're going to want it virtual, but I don't think you can figure out a way to have a welder be virtual yet. One day. I'm sure one day
robotics,
they could do it from afar.
a robot will be there, and you'll sit at a computer screen in your office doing
That's
the
what I was
welding.
thinking. Right. That's how it'll happen.
That's interesting to think about that. They'll have robots, and you'll just have to control them, and they'll
Yeah,
have all these factory workers all over the world working robots in one factory.
And you just wonder if that one day there'll be no jobs, and that people would be paid in a different way, and you'll survive in a different way in a far, far away time.
We'll be dead.
Yeah, for sure.
I won't.
Any more questions for Neil? We're hit at an hour right now, and Neil has been gracious to spend the whole time with any more important questions or anything like that. And if we don't, we're going to end the roundtable and go to the secret double probation roundtable and anything. So please ask away before I sign us out. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So okay, ready to sign off. Let me go to manage streaming here. So, well, that's it for today's Recruiter Roundtable. Thank you all for attending, and thank you, Neil, very much for doing this. Please like and subscribe and share the Roundtable on social media anywhere you can. Thank you for being part of the Recruiter Roundtable. We really appreciate it. YouTube at the Recruiter Roundtable and www.recruiterroundtable.com. LinkedIn, the Recruiter Roundtable. Legal services for the Roundtable are provided by the law offices of Dewey Cheatham Howe. For topics, suggestions, questions, and more, email us at recruiterroundtable@gmail. And remember, this podcast may contain information that's conflict, privilege, and unsuitable for overly sensitive persons and low self-esteem, no sense of humor, or rational origin. Please, you'll be happy to know that no animals were harmed in making this podcast. But the next door is living under our time. Thanks again for being part of the Recruiter Roundtable. For Ernie, Moreno, and Kelly Nelson, I'm Thom Alascio. We'll see you next week on the Recruiter Roundtable. And then until then, don't forget to smile and dial. We're out.
Awesome.
You know what would be cool is like if you could add that in the old days where they had the